everyone, welcome to my channel. This is going to be my first attempt at making these commentary slash speed paint videos. I especially wanted to do it with this speed paint because I have a lot to say about the Barbie movie, like how this is probably one of my favorite movies of all time. Not only is this movie extremely funny and pink, it ties in gender issues like I've never seen before. And I love how they use the Barbie doll as a metaphor and also a representation for women's struggles and also men's at the same time. Talk about what the Barbie doll's purpose even was. So mentioned in the movie, the creator of Barbie, Ruth Handler, made Barbie for her daughter to give her a mindset that women could be what they set their mind out to be, whether it be the president, doctor, mermaid, whatever. If you wanted to do it, then you just have to believe in yourself. Just like the whole Barbie slogan, anything is possible. To be completely honest, when I was watching this movie, I thought the movie was criticizing Barbie, which confused me. Like that scene with Gloria's daughter that basically insulted stereotypical Barbie on how she's a harmful representation for young girls, despite what Barbies in Barbie Land thought, which obviously was made for laughs, like not an actual legit criticism, but still, like I was still confused. The whole point of Barbie was that anything is possible. However, I realized as the movie went on, it felt more like a dissection of Barbie rather than an actual critique, showing how people expect womanhood to be and how they push that idea onto the Barbie doll, not that Barbie was harmful in itself. The movie shows this with humor and actually emotionally moving scenes. Like the one scene where Barbie went to see Weird Barbie and she tells Barbie how horrid real life can be, like getting cellulite. Or that one beautiful scene where Barbie is sitting at the bus stop and is just experiencing life, especially when she sees the old woman, who I think was Barbara Handler, Ruth Handler's daughter, and acknowledges that she is still beautiful despite high beauty expectations that Barbies and real women face. Those two scenes show that Barbies are put into a lot of pressure to be perfect, yet at the same time beat stereotypes that are thrown onto women. Again, anything is possible. However, setting the bar that high to be a perfect girl boss type is not only extremely difficult, especially if you take in how the real world is, but in a way impossible. It's basically everything Gloria said in her rant about the unfair standards that women are held to. What makes stereotypical Barbie's arc so great was the lesson that she learned at the end, that there shouldn't be such a high expectation for women. If they want to be a president, mermaid, astronaut, princess thing, then awesome. But not everyone is going to want to live up to that expectation. Some women just want to live, and that in itself is a wonderful life. Like the ending where Ruth shows Barbies how to live, and it's full of montages of women. To be honest, one of the most beautiful endings to an arc I have ever seen. This movie did a great job showing how Barbie is viewed and used by the world. It starts some great discussions about gender roles while also appreciating the doll for what it represents. Every girl, regardless of what they look like or what they do, is a Barbie. Anything they achieve is possible. I said that slogan like 3 times now. It's just really impactful to me. Another topic I see a lot of people talk about is Ken and how he is supposed to be the villain of the movie. I want to go into Ken's character later, however I really want to talk about who I would say the villain is, because I think the actual villain in this film is the Mattel company. While Ken did do objectively horrible things, like becoming a podcast bro, and stealing Barbie's dream house, brainwashing all her friends, and then tried to strip Barbies from their powers and make them second-class citizens, the reason Ken did all of those things so he can be acknowledged by Barbie. Hell, when Barbie defeated all the Kens, Ken literally admitted that he really didn't care about the patriarchy and he just liked the horses. So Ken wasn't really a villain, an antagonist, sure, but not really a villain per se. While the Barbies are flawed for treating the Kens as nothing more than a second thought, however, that wasn't really the Barbies' fault. That was just the way their world worked. As I said, the people who are at fault for this is Mattel. Now why I think Mattel is the actual villain of this movie is because they misinterpreted the everything is possible Barbie slogan. Mattel was the one who put Barbies on this gigantic pedestal, making them the important one, while at the same time treating Kens as nothing more as an accessory. That one scene where Barbie finally meets them really showed me how flawed their mindset is. They pat themselves on the back for creating these life-changing dolls. However, in present day, either people don't play with them or they have a negative view of them. And again, the lack of care they show towards Ken. Barbie was the one wondering about Ken's place in all of this, and the Will Ferrell CEO response was just, "Oh, we're not worried about Ken." The opposing opinions about Ken from stereotypical Barbie and Will Ferrell CEO is what shows me who really sees Ken as an afterthought. The CEOs wanted to keep Barbie Land in the way it was, and considering it from their perspective, I can understand why, and it's pretty realistic. I would say the reason for it is because they know that Barbie being a girl boss with a himbo boyfriend would be much more profitable than the other way around. With newer waves of feminism, obviously companies that are targeted towards women would want to profit off of it. The companies make more money, and I guess in context of this movie, the CEOs feel good about themselves when they promote a woke message. So yeah, I would say Mattel is more of the villain. Very fun villains, very goofy. I loved every scene that they were in. But I would say they were the one who actually starts up the conflict and are the ones to be pretty much blamed for how Barbie Land is treated. Now the last topic I want to go over is Ken. So since this movie came out, there has been a lot of criticisms, and I use massive air quotes there, saying how this movie is anti-men or brainwashing women to hate men. And it's just like, I don't know how anyone could watch this movie in its entirety and still come to that conclusion. Either A, you're just really dumb, or B, you came into this movie with a bias against the topic of feminism and you're already set on the whole this movie is anti-men's mindset before it even started. But since I actually watched the movie, I can confidently say that this is one of the most pro-man and pro-woman movies I have ever seen. While yes, this movie focuses more on women's issue, the film still takes its time to show how the patriarchy harms men, or specifically Ken. So like I mentioned before, Ken is seen as an afterthought. He's just Ken, as shown in the posters advertising for this movie. Once Ken goes into the real world with Barbie, he sees that men are the ones in charge. Inspired by what he sees, he takes this new information to Barbie Land and basically switches the Barbies and Ken's roles. Ken takes Barbie's dream house, friends, and is basically about to overthrow the government. Again, what Ken is doing is awful. I will repeat, this does not make him a villain. We know why he's doing it. It makes perfect sense. Ken wanted Barbie to acknowledge him, to be seen, and have a pet horse. Which, okay, kind of fair. I think this movie is trying to show how men can be sucked into patriarchy, especially men that feel unvalued by a society that they live in. I've seen a lot of women compare Ken to young boys that were genuinely kind and become more misogynistic when they become older. And I think that is a perfect comparison. I also remember being friendly with this one kid from my elementary school. He was somewhat of a class clown, but he was very sweet and really fun to hang out with. But when we got older, he just became a straight up monster that people had to avoid for their safety. And I 110% believe the reason he became like that was because of systems like the patriarchy. And Ken's arc reminded me of that. It was nice to see the intersectionality of how patriarchy affects men. Like, yes, of course, patriarchy harms men, but it still puts them in situations where they have the advantage over women in specific situations. When Ken takes over Barbie Land, or Kendom now, I guess, you can still tell that Ken is miserable. His whole musical number, which slaps by the way, shows that he still has no sense of himself and continues to dedicate himself to Barbie. But I wouldn't really say it's in a simp way, more of a showing off his manhood way. Which is realistic. There are men in this world who are desperate for women's validation and men's approval. When the Barbies used the Ken's insecurities against them, which caused him to go into a straight up war, made sense. Obviously exaggerated for humor and entertainment, but you can still get the message. The ending to Ken's arc was very nice. With the help of Barbie, Ken came to the realization that he shouldn't dedicate his whole life off of one person. He should find a sense of worth from himself, which I think is a phenomenal message to leave men with. And the icing on the cake was that I am Ken enough sweatshirt. Like, words cannot define how much I want that sweatshirt. So a very good movie to understand how men are affected by the patriarchy. While yes, they do benefit from it, they can also face a lot of harm from it as well. It's just very annoying how people watch this movie and then came to the conclusion that it's anti-men when it's anything but that. So yeah, this movie is obviously really, really, really good. This is probably one of my favorite movies I have ever seen. The messages it portrayed were really emotionally moving, and it's incredibly funny. I honestly recommend anyone who hasn't watched it to give it a go. It's actually life-changing. I also hope you enjoy me rambling about my opinions about this movie. I want to do more videos like this where I give my opinions about films while I make art for them. So I hope you all enjoyed this one. Thank you all for watching. I'm gonna listen to I'm Just Ken for the 123rd time. Bye.